I never thought my past as a Navy SEAL would matter in a quiet suburban neighborhood. But that day, it all came crashing back. 3 fake cops stormed onto my property, slapped my wife across the face, and by the time the real police arrived, those men looked nothing like when they showed up. That was the day I learned that sometimes war doesn't end. When you leave the battlefield, it just changes its uniform. That morning started like any other. My wife Sarah was outside watering her garden, humming along to the radio. The air smelled like cut grass, and the neighbors' sprinklers ticked in rhythm. Peaceful, normal. Then she noticed an unfamiliar black SUV circling the block. Once, twice, a third time. It stopped across the street, engine still running. 3 men stepped out, black tactical vests, boots, sunglasses, and shiny police patches that looked a little too new. They walked like they wanted attention. Sarah's got good instincts. She called out, "Can I help you, officers?" The tallest one flashed a badge so fake it could have come from a Halloween store. HOA compliance inspection. He said all authority and no warmth. Sarah frowned. "Since when does the HOA hire police officers?" That's when the second guy smirked and said, "We're not hired, lady. We are the law here." Now Sarah's not someone who scares easily. She told them to leave, that they were trespassing. But the third guy stepped closer, resting his hand on a cheap plastic baton, and when she reached for her phone to record them, he slapped it out of her hand, and then he slapped her. Hard. I heard it from the garage, that sharp sound that makes every muscle in your body tense. When I came out, Sarah was holding her face, eyes wide, and those 3 men were standing in my yard like they owned it. Something inside me switched just like that. I wasn't in the suburbs anymore. I was back in deployment mode, every movement calculated, every breath controlled. I walked right up to the tall one. "You picked the wrong house," I told him. "You've got 5 seconds to explain who sent you." He squared his shoulders, trying to look tough. "The HOA president. You've been ignoring notices. We're here to make sure you comply." I almost laughed. I've stared down warlords tougher than this guy. I told Sarah to go inside and lock the door. She didn't argue. She knows that tone in my voice. I turned back to the 3 of them. "Touch my wife again and you won't be walking out of here." They laughed, but I could see the flicker of uncertainty. I asked for their IDs. Of course they refused. Real cops always identify themselves. That's when I knew. They weren't just trespassing, they were committing a federal crime impersonating officers. The tall one jabbed a finger at my chest. "You think you can ignore HOA rules? You've been warned about your truck, your fence, those military dogs." I cut him off. "Those dogs are service animals protected by federal law. My fence is within city code, and my truck's parked legally. You've got nothing." The short one puffed his chest. "We'll cuff you right here." He reached for a Velcro strap and pulled out toy-grade handcuffs that looked like they came from a kid's play set. That was it. I was done being polite. I moved fast, grabbed his wrist, twisted the cuffs, fell to the ground, and I drove my elbow into his jaw. He went down hard, gasping. The second guy lunged with his baton. I sidestepped, caught his arm mid-swing, flipped him over my shoulder. He hit the pavement with a dull thud that made the neighbors watching go silent. The leader froze, eyes wide. "You're assaulting officers," he shouted. I stepped closer, my voice low, steady. "No, I'm stopping 3 criminals from assaulting my wife." Sarah had come back out, her phone recording this time. "Already called the sheriff," she yelled. "They're on the way." The leader cursed, tried to bolt for the SUV, but I grabbed his vest, yanked him backward, and pinned him against the hood. He wasn't trained. He was all bark. When the real deputies arrived, 2 of the fakes were rolling on the grass, the third face down on the car, with my knee in his back. The deputies drew their guns, shouting for everyone to freeze. I raised my hands, stepped back. Sarah pointed, voice shaking but firm. "Those are the guys. They hit me." Within minutes the truth spilled out. The fake badges, the cheap gear, it was all confiscated. And when the deputies started questioning them, the leader cracked. He confessed that the HOA president, Karen Ellis, had paid them cash to teach us a lesson. Karen Ellis. I should have known. She'd been gunning for us for months. Letters, warnings, threats about property lines and aesthetic violations. I always brushed it off, thinking she was just another power-hungry HOA busybody. But this hiring fake cops, that was a new level of crazy. At the sheriff's station, the imposters looked pathetic real cuffs on this time, not the plastic ones. Under questioning, they admitted everything. The HOA president had told them to intimidate me, scare Sarah, and make us comply. When the deputies asked if I wanted to press charges, I didn't even hesitate. Absolutely, I said. Impersonating an officer and assaulting my wife. That's not going away. I thought that would be the end of it. But a few days later I got a thick envelope in the mail. A lawsuit. Karen was suing me for excessive force and damaging the reputation of the HOA. She had the audacity to claim that her hired thugs were licensed security contractors. When my lawyer read the complaint, he actually laughed. "This is a gift," he said. "We'll countersue for harassment, assault, and conspiracy. You've got video evidence she's finished." Still, that night I couldn't sleep. The adrenaline had faded, replaced by doubt. What if she actually won? HOA boards have influence. They could drag this out for years, bleed us dry with legal fees. I started thinking maybe I should just sell the house and walk away. Sarah sat beside me, holding my hand. "You didn't do anything wrong," she said quietly. "You protected me. You stood up for us. Don't let her scare you into silence." That hit me hard. I realized that's exactly what Karen wanted to make us bend, to make us small. I'd fought real wars. I wasn't about to lose to a woman with a clipboard and an ego problem. We built our case. My attorney gathered statements, the video footage, HOA letters, all of it. Even some neighbors came forward. One of them, Jake, told me Karen had bragged at a board meeting that she had people who could handle me. That line would come back to haunt her. The court date arrived. The room was packed, neighbors, reporters, even a few HOA members sitting stiffly in the back row. Karen strutted in wearing a sharp blazer and that smug look she always had when she thought she was untouchable. She wouldn't even look at us. The judge took his seat. Karen's lawyer went first, spinning a web of lies about me being aggressive, unstable, a danger to the community. I kept my eyes on the floor, jaw tight. Sarah squeezed my hand. "Wait," she whispered. "Let them hang themselves." Then it was our turn. My lawyer stood up, calm as a rock. "Your Honor," he said, "we have video evidence." The moment the footage started playing, you could hear a pin drop. Sarah on the porch, the fake cops, the slap, my warning, the fight, it was all there, crystal clear. The judge leaned back in his chair, expression hardening by the second. When it ended, he looked straight at Karen. "Mrs. Ellis," he said slowly, "you hired men to impersonate law enforcement and assault your neighbors. You then filed a false lawsuit to cover it up. This court will not tolerate that." Karen's face went pale. Her lawyer tried to stammer out a defense, but the judge wasn't having it. He dismissed her case on the spot, sanctioned her for abuse of the legal system, and ordered her personally liable for damages. The HOA board members who'd once followed her power trips didn't even look at her as they left the courtroom. She sat there, frozen eyes darting, realizing it was over. As for the fake cops, they were held without bail, facing felony charges for impersonating officers and assault. The sheriff himself approached me after court. "Good thing you kept your cool," he said. "Most folks would have gone too far. You probably saved your wife from something worse." I didn't feel victorious, just drained. Standing there holding Sarah's hand, watching Karen walk out of the courthouse, her head down, I felt the weight lift off my chest. Not pride, not revenge, just peace. Later that evening, I stood in my yard, staring at the spot where everything happened. The grass was still flattened from the fight. The sound of sprinklers returned steady and calm. For the first time in weeks, it actually felt like home again. Karen thought she could rule the neighborhood through fear. She thought money and power could bend the law. But fear only works on people who let it. I used to think leaving the Navy meant leaving the fight behind. Turns out sometimes the fight finds you again. But when it does, you stand your ground. Lesson learned. Evil doesn't always wear a uniform, but neither does courage.